Everybody, welcome to the Faith and Fandom Podcast. Today, I am joined by Todd Turner of Mosaic Fan Art and a million other successful things.
Successful.
You've parented and you married your children, some of your children, and you're
true.
A pharmacist, and you've adulted well.
Thank you. I have a good helper, thank goodness.
Yes, you do. So Todd's joining us with us today, and what we're doing is we're just going to revisit some classic comic books storylines, and it feels weird to be able to say Identity Crisis is a classic.
18 years.
It's 18 years. It's like this sucker could vote, and it couldn't buy a beer.
No, but it can vote. Oh gosh.
Also couldn't rent a car, but Hush is 20 years. So, no, Hush is 20 years next year. So, probably have to revisit that. But today we're going to be revisiting Identity Crisis. Show off the chunky Absolute Edition. Todd's got the OG. Man, yours looks so crisp because I can tell you this. One of the mine are loved, like my original copies, and
right,
because they got that. We'll just talk about it. This was one of those stories that for me was like kind of game changing, and I almost didn't get it. Like I remember I was in a little comic book shop in Laurinburg, North Carolina, and this was when this dropped, do you remember what else was going on in comics about that time? Like whatever.
I do not.
Okay, because that's right. Like so this was
because this was 2004 is when it came out.
Yeah.
The easiest way to do is go to the back of my Identity Crisis 1. It tells me what books were coming out at the time.
Yeah.
Teen Titans was still going on. But as far as in 2004, I have no clue. Boy, they're really pushing Aquaman in the back of these books. It's like every time.
The comics,
Batman and the Order, JLA 101.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the Pain of the Gods. That was, I think Chuck Austin, did that. But as far as DC goes, this was right at the beginning of my disappearance from comics hiatus for a while.
So this was the beginning of my comeback to comics.
Nice.
So this is 2004. This was Batman Hush had just happened. So Batman had just hit a high point. We were heading into, this was like Identity Crisis was, a big thing in that it was one of the first big JLA-ish crossovers after like the Hush era. You were heading into stuff like 52 and Countdown were coming and all that fun stuff. But for me, like, I remember it being in my local comic book shop, seeing the cover and asking the guy, like, what's this? He's like, some funeral story.
Right. And before that, the only funeral story was really big was the death of Superman, and that was huge.
It was. But like, I started asking him, like, his, for all purposes, this guy ran a shop, but he was not a good salesperson as far as like trying to convince you to get something.
Gotcha.
He's like, if you get it, you get it. I don't care. And
nice.
And so like, as opposed to some other shops that are like, no, they're all great issues. Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. Some people are like, everyone's a great one. But I think honestly, the thing that like made me click onto it was that Brad Meltzer wrote it. At that point in time, I wasn't a huge Brad Meltzer, fan, but I recognized the name. I knew he was a big author. I knew that was, something beyond comics that he wrote. And so I checked it out, and was there anything that made you pick it up? Let's just ask this.
I don't remember. Goodness, that's so long ago. Probably the fact that I collected Crisis on Infinite Earths issue by issue as it came out, and this was the first DC let's call something a crisis, if I'm not mistaken, since Crisis on Infinite. Now everything's a crisis. Matter of fact, Dark Crisis starts yesterday.
Yeah.
Dark Crisis issue 1. I mean, they've had all the prologue books, but so now everything's a crisis, right? So I loved Crisis on Infinite Earths, even though it was extremely wordy, if you go back and read it now, you're like, wow, I can't believe I slogged through all of that. But so I was like, oh, well, this sounds cool, and that's why I picked it up. Probably that's my guess.
To go from and that was one of the things too. It was a Crisis tie-in, and then this would be like a ramp up to a lot of other crises, because you would go from Identity Crisis to Infinite Crisis to
Heroes in Crisis.
Well, before that, you even had
there's Infinite. There's something else. There's one of them that I'm missing 3 books on.
It's the one that came after Batman Rest in Peace. There was a crisis that came right after that, where Darkseid killed Batman was one of the climax of the stories.
Right. Let me see what it is. There's Infinite. That isn't it, is it?
Infinite, no, that was the one where Wonder Woman snapped Homeboy's neck, Max Lord's neck.
This was the one that came at the end of like 52, the week 52 countdown or whatever.
Absolute
Final Crisis.
Final Crisis. Final Crisis. Yeah, because it went 52 to Countdown, and then halfway through Countdown's run, it changed its name to Countdown to Final Crisis.
Final Crisis, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we've had Dark Crisis. We've had the crises, and one of the things that I think attracted me to this was that this was a crisis book that wasn't on a mega scale.
Oh no, and it didn't really have tie-ins, right? It was just a 7-issue miniseries, basically.
7-issue miniseries, but it led to the distrust that would be Infinite Crisis. Everybody's distrust in the books moving forward after this, because one of the things that this actually got me reading JLA proper after that. And I think Grant Morrison might have been still writing some of that at that point. But because after this point, Batman trusted people less, which is, a hard thing to
that's
actually
hilarious.
Come by.
How do you write that?
It's like Batman, but paranoid. You mean Batman?
You mean, oh gosh, Batman off his medication.
Yeah. And so this is just one of those things. And I remember picking up issue 1, and I honestly felt like, you know what? I don't care.
What do you mean you don't care?
Like, I really
didn't care about the. You didn't care about the. Oh man, I literally have equated issue 1 as like, other than the first 10 minutes of the movie Up, which I consider one of the best love stories ever created. The first 10 minutes of that movie, where we see the older
Carl
guy,
and Ellie.
Yeah, that whole love story boiled down into like 5-10 minutes. I felt like issue 1, was such a sweet love story, and then they just pull the rug out from underneath of you. At that point, had really anybody cared about the Elongated Man?
No,
honestly.
And I think that's what got me as where I didn't care, was because now this is 2003 or 2004 was when I was reading this. I just finished us. I'd only been reading comics 1 year. I'd only really been reading DC 1 year, because from the early 90s up until the original Spider-Man Clone Saga, I just read Marvel.
Gotcha.
Like
Clone Saga.
Yeah.
Jump off.
Yeah. As up until that point, I had just read Marvel with the Batman the Animated Series tie-ins. So
Gotcha.
Like DC wasn't my thing. I grew more on DC as characters in the years that followed, but I'd only been reading comics 1 year for DC proper at that point. And a story about Elongated Man and his wife, and at the end of it they said Dr. Light, and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are, was like my response.
So should we throw out the premise of the book for those who haven't?
Yeah,
because we just jumped right in.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a good life choice. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a 7-issue miniseries by Brad Meltzer and Rag Morales, who's the artist. Rags Morales. Michael Turner does covers, but it is a murder mystery. And what happens is a loved one of one of the, I would say not even B-list, C-list hero,
C. Yeah, absolutely.
is killed, and then all of the Justice League jumps in to try to find out who the murderer is. But there is a twist in this book, because you come to find out that a group within the JLA have decided to not just erase people's memories of who they are, but literally change their aspect of like their being of who they are. And the main characters, like Hector said, was Dr. Light, which, by the way, I knew all about it because
I knew you were a Titans person, so
that Teen Titans was my intro into comic books, and he was a main villain of the Teen Titans. And they even talk about that in Identity Crisis, how this guy's a lame-o. I mean, he's fighting the Teen Titans. Why are we even caring about him? But I don't know how far you want to hop into that, Hector, but I think that pretty much lays it out.
Yeah.
The big reveal, we're going to spoil it, of course. The book's been around for 18 years. You know, I'll let Hector decide when he wants to.
I mean, whatever. But that was the thing. Like the first issue, I literally thought, well, that was a waste of my time. Like the first time I read it. And first issue, first of all, and I'm not a negative person in general, but I'll say this: Rags's art style is unique.
Yeah, so I remember back then that a lot of people were like, "Oh, his facial feet, you know, some of his faces are weird," but I sort of like it. I think it conveys emotion so much better than some of the other. I mean, it is unique, and I can understand where some people will be like turned off from it, but like just the looks. Like, for example, there's one scene where they're trying to get back to Tim Drake's house. Yeah. And Batman, you can just see the expression on Batman's face with a little itty bit of his face that you can see underneath that cowl.
The amount of despair that's going on in his face in that scene, like with Robin in the seat, is just like. Now, but I'll say this: Rags's art style turned some people off from the book. Yeah. What was a pro and a con was that you had Michael Turner's like,
oh, I know, the gorgeous
like
covers are like amazing.
Michael Turner's gorgeous art, like, you know, on the covers,
and then you open it up and it is, well, this isn't the same guy.
Yeah, and that was a straight Rickroll. I mean,
it was.
And for me, I mean, it's just like, and Chris and I debated, and like, of just when covers are straight up deceptive. So like, even, you know, I was reading the Task Force Z the other day, and the cover that I got, at least, has a zombie Bane drinking tea.
Yeah, that kills me.
With like all these stuffed animals of all the Z team members or whatever, and the cover title says Bane spills the tea. Bane's not in the book at all, and I'm like,
yeah,
I hate you all.
The covers to these are I thought the covers were very good. If you don't go by the art style, but they do convey what happens in the book for each one of these issues. Absolutely. 100%. So you know what's going on. It's not like the only issue is that this guy who draws this crisp art, I think, did he draw like Tomb Raider or Fathom?
Yeah.
Fathom, I think. And it's completely different. But Rags Morales' ability to convey emotion, just like through drawing people's eyes, even.
Yes.
But there are some wonky places where like a nose looks like it shouldn't be here, or like a jaw is over to the side or something. But
I'll say this: like, he is the gold standard for what I look at for Elongated Man now. Anytime I see Elongated Man in a book and he doesn't look like Identity Crisis Elongated Man, I'm like, ew. But
he does it good because you know, I guess his art style really does favor Elongated Man, because you really never know where his face is going to be or do or whatever. So I got you on that. Yeah.
Now, this is just a little perk of the Absolute Edition, but did you know that each character is modeled after a celebrity?
No, I had no idea.
Okay, so
that's in
here, and I didn't know this until this other time. Because here's the thing: like, when I really love the Absolute Editions, and if they keep doing these, which I hear that DC's done doing it,
really,
yeah, I hear that the print division was like, this is kind of a waste, so let's not do this anymore. On turn, but like I love absolute editions. It's got a breakdown of all the characters in here on what celebrities they're based on.
Nice.
So each character, Elongated Man is designed to look like Dick Van Dyke.
I could see that. Yeah.
Elongated Man is Dick Van Dyke. Sue Dibney is Don Wells. I don't know who that is.
This is a deep dive, man. Way before me too.
Yeah. And some of these are really, I recognize from like classic TV and stuff. Like Firehawk is Patty Hearst.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, see, no one by picking up this book would know this.
No. Green Arrow is Lane Stanley, the deceased lead singer of Alice in Chains.
Oh, yeah. See, it's crazy.
It is. Jean Loring is Leslie Ann Warren, Miss Scarlet in the movie Clue.
Yeah. Wow.
Adam is a young Paul Newman, which I can actually see that.
I can see that.
Batman is a mustacheless Tom Selleck.
Well, that's a good way to make Batman. I like it. Although I can't imagine Tom Selleck without a mustache. So
right. Wally West Flash is Brad Pitt.
Okay, but I don't think we ever see Wally in this book without his mask on.
No,
I think his mask is on every time. Maybe once or twice. I can't remember.
Barry Allen Flash is John Hurt,
which is that's like a flashback. Yeah, that's a flashback in the book.
Zatanna is Phoebe Cates.
Oh, all right, good.
Yeah,
nice.
Black Canary is Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
Oh wow, I can see that 100%.
Right.
From 2004, right off the X-Men movie.
Exactly. Superman, he was trying to go for the original Buster Crabbe.
I could see, here's the deal though, with the way he draws faces, that I can see glimpses of it now that you say that, but there is no way in the world I would ever figure that out. You could give me 4 people and I would never guess it.
And when I was reading through this, I'm like, oh, y'all, okay.
Yeah.
This one's funny and relevant for the times. Nightwing, for the little bit of time he's in the book, is Johnny Depp.
Okay. Nice.
Starfire is Naomi Campbell.
Okay.
Wonder Woman is Julie Strain,
who is barely in the book too.
Yeah. Now she does have a great scene. Like the prison scene is fantastic
with Slipknot.
Yeah. Green Lantern Hal Jordan is Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
Who
in this book is the Spectre.
Yeah, he's the Spectre. Green Lantern Kyle Rayner is Freddie Prinze Jr. Vixen is Grace Jones. Shining Knight is John Cleese.
Well, that's hilarious. John Cleese, Shining Knight. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that's hilarious. Holy hand grenade.
Yeah. Firestorm is Josh Myers. I don't know who that is. Calculator is James Woods, which actually I could actually hear that in my head. That works well. Merlin is Ricardo Montalban. Yeah. And this one's hilarious. Captain Boomerang is Ron Jeremy.
Now that I see 100%.
Right.
I see that now. 100%. Because this is an older Captain Boomerang who is not in shape.
Yeah. And so that's hilarious. Owen, which I think is Captain Boomerang's kid, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is Justin Timberlake.
Oh, I think that's a stretch. I don't know about that. But we got to take this from a 2004 perspective too. 100%. All these people now look completely different.
Yep.
Except Ron Jeremy, I think he looks the same.
Yeah, pretty much. Phobia / Dr. Moon is Carolyn Jones from the Addams Family.
Who's Dr. Light?
Dude, it doesn't say.
Like he's like one of the main reasons this whole book is here.
This is just stuff Rags decided to include, and
Nice.
He didn't put it in there. Kronos is the New York Yankees manager, Joe Torre.
Joe Torre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Felix Faust is Leonard Nimoy.
Oh, wow.
And Mirror Master is Eric Roberts.
Who's Eric Roberts? I know who that is. Yes.
Classic movie. He's the one in The Dark Knight. He's like
where they dropped him from the, yeah. I like Eric Roberts.
Me too.
Yeah.
He was the master in the Doctor Who movie too, the American version.
Okay.
He's like, do you think I really want to hear you talk? I think that's one of the best lines.
Yeah, because they sound exactly alike.
Yeah, I was just like, the art style was a thing, but like I think not knowing who the characters were out the gate was something that kind of was an off put for me. But then, like, when I went back a month later, the guy was at the comic book shop was like, no, you need to keep going. It's only 7 issues. You'll want it. And then he tried to sell me. He didn't sell me on the first one, but he sold me just. And I'm glad.
Well, this would be a hard pickup because honestly, I mean, it's got Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman right there in the front on issue 1, but this book is not about them really. I mean, this is about if you think about who we think about for the Justice League, like Hal's not in it. Barry isn't in it really. I mean, they allude to them, but they're not the real characters. I mean, Martian Manhunter, we don't get much of him.
No.
Or Wonder Woman, and we get enough Batman and Superman in there. I mean, but really, this is a Green Arrow, Black Canary, Zatanna, Hawkman, Atom, Elongated Man book.
Yeah, it is. And so
and I actually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, good.
I have a friend who is a huge Green Arrow fan, like collects has all kinds of Green Arrow stuff. And I was after reading it, I texted him and I said, listen, Ed, I think this is probably my favorite Green Arrow book I've probably read. I mean, I love the Kevin Smith stuff when he started it back. And he was like, really? I don't think I've ever read it. And I was like, he does most of it is from his point of view. It seems like
he narrates a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Which is something I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I keep cutting you off. See, this is what happens. I just go on a ramble. One of the interesting things about this book is that the thought bubbles are not thought bubbles. They are boxes that have different colored font and different colored background, depending upon the superhero who is thinking them. So, which is really cool when you're not colorblind. So somebody such as myself who has a slight color blindness issue, you have to sort of, you start to hear their voice. But I love how they did that.
And one of the things I saw with it too is that as it was moving on, when you were getting more of the narration of the characters, like the thought bubbles, the voices, it became pretty clear on the just how things were being stated with it. But
yes,
it definitely was a different team book. But so let's jump into story.
Sure.
Like I'll say this. The first you mentioned that was a good love story. Or the other thing I was gonna say that on the Green Arrow front, Kevin Smith brought Green Arrow back from the dead.
Right.
Brad Meltzer of same writer for Identity Crisis did the follow-up series after Kevin's for Green Arrow.
I didn't know that.
So there's it might be called Archer's Quest. I could be wrong. I've got the book somewhere. Hardback. But so after he's brought back from the dead, Green Arrow and Roy go on a field trip across country to undo all of Green Arrow's contingency plans for if he died.
Because he's now not dead.
Because he's now not dead. Because he had like a list of, if I die, do these things.
Right.
And so like he wanted to undo it. Nice. And so it's this like road trip buddy story of these two going cross country trying to basically reinstate his life. And it's a really good book. So you might want to tell your Green Arrow friend if he missed that one. That
I will.
Pretty solid entry. But there are certain parts of this book that have lived in my head rent free for like an adult lifetime of like again, I didn't know who Ralph and Sue were at this point. Like it just wasn't part of my mental canon. But there's the one line where after he's talking to Firehawk and where he's like
when they're up on the rooftop.
Up on the rooftop, and he says, and it's this one panel, don't you understand, Lorraine? It's not just that she believes in me, she's my lady. Like, and what he said, I was like, oh,
I know it.
Now at that point in time, I was a newlywed. I had been married all of maybe 3 months at this point, and so that stuff was like,
she gets me.
I was like, that was sweet. And also it was the same thing that when it was talking about that that when Sue first noticed him,
yes,
it wasn't just so that cool. She noticed me, it was that she didn't notice him, like right. That she chose him over
the other superheroes that were there,
over the other superheroes. And he's like, some people just like butter pecan. I mean,
yes, I love that. Some people just like butter pecan ice cream. Yes.
And that's like, and that's one of the things is like Brad's storytelling. Like somebody could have scribbled this with, stick figures. And as long as Brad narrated it, like I would have been down. It was such a good.
Well, I think that was part of it. That's what that writing is what made me, that hooked me in the first issue, because you have it's sort of felt like if there could be two everyday people that would be in the Justice League, it would be Ralph Dibny, the Elongated Man, and then his wife, because they feel like, oh yeah, they're not the flashy people. They're not, they could be me and you,
Yeah.
And it felt so sweet. And then they kill her like in the first issue.
They're just straight killer. And that's one of the things. But being Brad, I think everybody thought that the traumatic stuff was going to be the initial trauma, and that was going to be as bad as it got.
Oh gosh, no.
And I think this is one of the things that separates this book from everything else, is because
dude, she was pregnant.
Yeah. And that she was pregnant, she was that, but also all the stuff with Dr. Light prior.
Right.
Like
which that was an issue too.
Yeah. We'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
But like, and honestly, giving a calculator such good room to actually tell a story.
The anti-oracle.
The anti-oracle. Yeah, dude. It was just like the fact he was charging.
Have they done anything else with that since then? I don't ever remember. This is the only time I ever remember that happening. But you would think, so the calculator is just a C-list Batman villain who, for those of you who don't know, is like literally running a, like he sets people up with villains to do their bidding. He's sort of like Barbara Gordon's Oracle character in the Batman, who's like the girl in the person in the seat,
as Ned would say.
As Ned would say, yeah, right. And he is just hooking up. Gosh, I don't know.
But the fact that he's charging like $1,000 per question.
Yes.
$1,000 per answer, or $3,000.
Yeah, I get it.
That he's got like breakdowns on all the little characters and stuff, that the minor characters for that. That's one of the things I've enjoyed so much about Brad's writing, because he's big now with a whole generation for kids' books.
Really?
I don't like, have you seen the books like I Am Abraham Lincoln, I Am Martin Luther King?
No.
He does those. He does those. He does a whole historical line of putting like almost like golden, like the little golden spine books from the.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
He does. They're not golden spine, but like he does books on that level of like I Am Martin Luther King, I Am Maya Angelou, I Am Jackie Robinson, basically introducing historical figures to kids.
Gotcha.
And they've made a kids cartoon show out of it now too.
Well,
like, so he's blowing up, he's on that whole level. But beyond that, like one of the things that I like separates him from James Patterson per se, and mystery writing is that he puts ridiculous amounts of detail and story building into the characters he's writing that you feel like is like superfluous, but then turns out to be like
That was important. I needed to know that so I could understand this motivation of this person.
But I mean, it's like, but it's also, even when it's not important, sorry, forgot to turn my alarm. Even when it's not important, it's memorable, just like the butter pecan thing.
Yes.
With Elongated Man. The first Meltzer book I read, that I think I personally read, I picked up after this, because this book, when it concluded, like, was something that I felt was kind of life-changing. He did a book, and you know, if you're a murder mystery person in any way like this, he got me in all the right hooks, because he did a book called The Book of Lies. And the Book of Lies is, you know, might be on my shelf actually, but we'll find it later. The Book of Lies starts out like this the dust jacket on the back. In the Garden of Eden, Cain murdered his brother Abel. The murder weapon was never found.
Oh my gosh.
In 19 whatever, the creator of Superman's father was shot. That murder weapon was never found. These two crimes are about to connect.
Oh, interesting.
And like, so it's like, y'all literally just faith and fandom to me. Like, this was like,
no kidding. You went straight from the beginning to Superman. I mean, yeah, that's awesome.
And so like the whole thing is a detective who's investigating some other crime, and it literally ties into people that are looking for the murder object that Cain used
to kill Abel.
But it also ties into how the creator of Superman's father was shot and killed. And but he also used that book to help get that family's rights back to the creator's home.
Gotcha.
So he actually did real world good change with it. But it's like they literally threw like biblical lore and Superman creation into a murder mystery and about somebody struggling with their faith. And it was just like, okay. It's like, I remember it was the first, like, I'd read James Patterson books forever, but it was the first murder mystery of that level with just the detail. Like, one of the things that like stands out, like years later, I read that book probably a month or two after this book, and he has this one detail about how there's a dog coming to bite the main character in a swamp. Like, he's coming to like rip him to pieces. So he takes a spyglass baton, slides it into the sleeve of his shirt, and when the dog comes to bite him, he holds his arm out like that.
And the dog bites the baton.
He bites his arm and the baton, but he doesn't like get a full insertion.
Right.
And the way he just describes the teeth going in the top versus the sound of the teeth hitting the bottom, like, that's never left me. Like,
oh wow. That's a good job. Then he did his work, man.
Well, that's the thing. He does good detail work. So like, just with the first issue alone, I saw so much depth to the storytelling. But the thing, it was depth to storytelling of characters I didn't care about.
Right. Nobody even knew much about them.
And I think that's one of the things about good storytelling is if you can give us characters you don't care about and all of a sudden they matter, then you've done a good job. And the way that they lined up Sue's attack versus what was this guy's name that was getting shot up?
Oh, I don't know.
The Bolt.
I can't remember that guy's name. The Bolt. Yeah, the Bolt. Another villain that no one's ever heard of.
Right. The way they lined up the Bolt's attack with Sue's panels.
Attack.
Yeah. Again, great layout, great storytelling with that. And you know, when he's telling Firehawk, if I hold on to you, your hands will burn, he's like, do it. And
yeah, it doesn't matter. We got to get back to, got to get home. Yeah.
And then the villain actually, Bolt, as he's laying there on the shot, he's like, are you freaking maniac? Call me an ambulance.
Yeah, and that'd be another $1,000. The funny, I mean, this has nothing to do with this book, but I thought it was interesting that it's Luther's suit in the crate, and we never talk about it again.
No, that never gets brought
I
up
mean,
again.
that's never gets brought up again. I mean,
That
so there's
the fact a couple penguin goons end up with a Luther suit and they're selling it on the street. It's just
on the
like,
black market. Yeah, it's crazy.
and that you've got the guy that actually just shot up the bolt calling an ambulance for him. And I'm like,
I know. Yeah.
it's like, just get humanity moments. But now, like, and then there's the panel of Ralph holding Sue at the end of issue 1.
Right.
Well, not even the end of issue 1. Is it the end?
No, because at the end he's fallen apart. At the very end, it's him returns. Is the funeral correct?
Yeah.
This is like 2/3 of the way through it.
So the panel,
he gets to the house
when he's holding Sue at the home, the sprinklers, the fire alarm, like that image, for all of the credit to Rags with that image has like been permanently burned in my brain for 18 years. Of like, when I think of what grief looks like, when I think of what anguish looks like, it's that picture. And I've actually kept a picture of this in my phone, so when people are like texting me or like talking to me, like, how are you feeling today, and I'll like literally just send them. I send them this
that's
picture.
Terrible. That's horrible. It would be like this would be my worst day ever. This picture is my worst day ever. That's his worst day ever. I mean, they do an excellent job of portraying it. I mean, the woman he loves looks like she's been burned alive, and his gift that she was setting up to, he already knew about that's the whole entire thing, right? So every year for his birthday, she tries to get him something but he's such a great detective. So he always knows the gift she's giving him. And so this time she tries to do it like before his birthday. And she does have the gift that he knows she's giving him. But the other gift was, oh, you're going to be a dad. And now his gift is gone. His wife's gone. Their child is, I mean, this is just terrible.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Go ahead.
Hold on. I got to ask you a question. So I'm sitting here talking to this with my wife, and Kathy's like, and I'm telling her about all this stuff. And she goes, why would he want to talk about this comic book? That was her thing. Why did he choose this? I said, because it's so traumatic, but she deals with trauma all day long. She's she's a child therapist. So what made you, why, before we go on, Hector, can I ask you that? Why did you choose this book?
Honestly, talking with you about it was like, I was like, man, that would be a fun conversation.
There you go. Nice. I'm for it.
Well, I don't remember specifically what it was. It was like, so on my shelf immediately right here, I've got all of my Absolute editions and all of my hardbacks. So, I've got my Planetary that I got from you, and I've got Absolute Hush.
This is a great book, by the way.
Planetary. It is a great book. I've got Absolute Watchmen, Absolute Blackest Night, which I think I'm going to revisit that soon. Absolute Justice with Alex Ross, Kingdom Come, New Frontier. Like, I've got all these great books, and I was just like,
nice.
And I was thinking about, oh, and you know what else it is? I just finished reading Brad Meltzer's can't remember. He started a new storyline with a guy named Zig and Zola. Okay. But I had read a whole brand new novel of his and was about to start the second one in this series. And I was like, so I think I had Brad.
God, get him on the mind. Meltzer on the mind.
Well, and because his writing is it carries over so often. Gotcha. There was stuff that was reminding me of the Book of Lies. There was stuff in there that was reminding me of Identity Crisis. And I was just like, I think that, and just like, I haven't talked to Todd in a while. We should talk about Identity Crisis.
That's awesome. Well, let's do it, man. Issue 2 or issue 1.
And that's the thing too. Like, he's like, Brad did so many other really great things. He had a whole JLA run, which was really good. I know it's not everybody's wheelhouse, but he did a big chunk of Buffy season 8. And his Buffy season 8 stuff, marvelous.
Gotcha. I've never read anything Buffy.
Yeah. He also did when they were heading into the Final Crisis, Infinite Crisis era of stuff during Countdown. or not Countdown, but 52, somewhere in that area. He had a line, and it's one of those lines that stood with me my whole, like, 16 years later. And it was one of those things where it was a zero issue, and it might have been Absolute Crisis Zero issue or something, but it was an anthology book of different characters, but it had Batman and Dick swinging through Gotham, and it says, but the firstborn is always the firstborn. Gotcha. And just talking about how the relationship with Dick will never change. And I was just like, and that panel literally burned in my brain. So Brad's just one of those writers, I think, because I just read a recent novel, and I've literally, that's his newest novel is in my backpack right now.
Gotcha. If it don't have pictures, I don't read it. So that's one of my things. Sorry. Well, that's not true. I do read books on occasion.
But like, one of the things too I've been using, because I know audiobooks are big, and I did listen to both volumes of the Sandman's big audio production.
Yeah, I listened to you talk about that on your podcast.
Yeah, that, and they're adding more and more people, make me want to give the live action one a shot, but I'm still hesitant. But what I've been doing a lot of times, if I buy a book on Kindle, Alexa just reads it for me.
Nice.
So any book that's on your Kindle, you can just tell your
read it.
Just read it, and it'll read it to you. And as long as you can deal with the voice, like if
yes, Hector.
Yeah, that's it.
It's fine with me. I don't care.
Yeah, if you can deal with that, any book you own on Kindle, they'll read to you, and it just makes it easier. But going through the first issue of it, you got to, like, I remember getting to the scene of Ralph and Sue laying there and not wanting to read anymore. Like I was like, oh, this is horrible. It's like, why would I want to read this? Horrible. But one of the questions I was asking you, do we ever, because I just reread this, but it's already vacated from my mind. Do we ever have Ralph even acknowledge the pregnancy?
No, not that I know of. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, they never talk about it. And actually, it's not even brought up again in comic books for a long time. I mean, they reunite Sue and Ralph through, I don't know, Ralph ends up dying, and then they come together. They're like detectives, ghost detectives. And then, then they get brought back in the Blackest Night.
Yes. I was going to bring that up later too. Yeah.
And, because honestly, after this, I pretty much stopped comics. And then I this was terrible. I went back and recollected every issue of the Darkest Night, Blackest Night, whatever, and all the tie-ins.
Me too.
I had like a stack of comics, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the Elongated Man and his wife, So no, they don't talk about it in this. Never.
And that's one of the things, like, and it's a question that I'm planning to ask Brad Meltzer at some point. Because it's never mentioned, did Ralph actually know?
That's awful tough. I would think that he would have to know. I mean, because they bring in everyone and their mom to go over that room. First, of course, we know Batman's in there and he's got the note,
No, I think everybody else knows.
But you don't know if he knows or not.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
I don't know if anybody ever bothered to, like, tell him, because what's he going to do? Add to your grief? Like,
right. I think it just had to add to our grief.
Yeah.
I mean, and that way we know why it didn't have to be. I mean, honestly, but it does add
the
another
loss of
layer.
A wife alone is enough. Yeah.
Right. But that just makes it even. That'll break a guy. I mean, it could.
Absolutely.
And so that way we can look at Elongated Man, Ralph's and the people around him, their reaction to what they do afterwards. And I guess we can somehow justify that by, well, not only did they kill his wife, they killed his unborn child too. I say they, but we all know it was one person.
Yeah.
And then Wonder Woman getting up to do the speech.
Eulogy.
Oh my gosh. There's also a panel in the first issue where Animal Man, they call like I said, they call all the specialists in to look at the room, find out who broke in, who killed her. And Animal Man is just like, he's got like his nose turned up, like he's smelling,
Yeah.
I love how Rags drew that too. Yeah. He's like, yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. But when Wonder Woman stands up to do the eulogy, yeah, it's so sweet.
Well, then, and Ralph actually trying to hold his face together
Yes.
at the thing, that to me is another one of those like tragic moments of like, okay, I
just
feel
gotta
that in my
hold,
soul.
literally hold it together, man. And you just can't. I've had days like that. I'm sure you have too, Hector.
Oh, absolutely.
Where it's just like, I just can't do it. I can't do it.
And I lost both of my parents after this book. And so like a lot of times, and we also went through a couple miscarriages after this book. And so like there'd be times where like I would literally picture my internal monologue, like the thing with Sue, or like Ralph standing there holding his face together at the funeral. Like this has been stuff, that's kind of resonated with me forever with that. But and I'm kind of sad that we never got Wonder Woman's speech, but I'm also grateful we didn't get Wonder Woman's speech.
Yeah, so we can put that in ourselves. I think I have an internal monologue of, of what it would have sounded like, which I like that. He does just the right amount of giving us what we need to hear, and then we supplement that with what we think we should be hearing. I really enjoy that.
It's the kind of speech that was quoted in Bartlett's years from now.
Yes.
I barely hear a word.
I know it. I don't even know if anybody knows what Bartlett's is anymore.
No. And you know what? This shows that who Brad is, because that's something that mattered to him. But
yeah,
no, like 20, because at this point in time I would have been like 21 or 22, 23 at tops. No 23-year-old knew what Bartlett's was at that point in time.
I knew what it was.
Yeah,
we had to use it in English. Oh gosh. But at the end of issue 1, the change from grief to anger is just so, the look on Ralph's face goes from being unable to hold it together to just,
well, and the fact that like it's so crisp, there's not a sag in him, there's no anything, it's just like
it's resolute.
Yeah. And that's like, oh, for real? And that's the thing, I didn't have enough in me about these people, this team, to care desperately.
Yeah. And actually, I think a lot of Black Canary, Green Arrow, I've come to appreciate them more in the last 2 or 3 years. It seems like their relationship is, especially in Tom Taylor's Deceased run. Yeah. Which, by the way, if you didn't know, Deceased, the next volume is coming out this year.
I saw that.
So, but I really am enjoying the Green Arrow. And even in Death Metal, they had a couple. So I really and Zatanna has always been like, I think she'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I hear there's a movie, but we'll see.
Who knows?
She was really good. If you haven't watched on the animated front, she has a really solid arc in Young Justice. Like,
I haven't watched Young Justice. I just need to put it on.
Being a Titans person, like in that capacity you are, there's a lot that's borrowed directly from your classic stories.
Gotcha.
Of the Titans run, but they also will pull your leg on some stuff too, because
gotcha,
if they're doing straight up things like the Judas contract, like
I so want to get off topic so bad. How about Geoforce being the guy that killed the Deathstroke?
I know.
You're reading like makes sense.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, Ra's al Ghul. Yeah. Anyway, that's completely it. I
just read that yesterday. So.
I'm glad I didn't ruin that. That's a Batman and the Outsiders Judas contract Teen Titans throwback.
Well, that's the thing. They actually do the Judas contract storyline in Young Justice, but they misdirect you and pull you in different directions in some different areas. So
well, good, because that would be creepy now if you think Deathstroke's like, what is he, like 40 or 50, and Tara was like what, 13? That's a little bit weird.
It's no less creepy.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. I'm sorry. Back to the identity crisis.
It is less creepy, but if you have the back knowledge, it's not less creepy. So I think that's one of the things. It's like
Gotcha.
you
You're going,
read.
this is cringy.
Yeah, it is. It gets there a lot.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in jail for killing people. He'd be in jail for grooming and
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Did you like you mentioned, about Ralph being dead later on? Did you read Countdown or see how Ralph died?
I do not have Countdown. I missed the opportunity. I could have gotten all 52 issues of Count. Wait, I have.
Not 52.
I do have Count. Okay, I have 52 Countdowns. What I have. I do not have. Maybe is it in there?
I think it's in the book.
So the answer
Countdown.
is no. Anyway, it is no. I have not read it.
Because they did 52, and then once 52
Hmm.
ended, Countdown started.
Well, I have that. I have Countdown.
Okay,
I just never finished it.
I feel like it's in Countdown. It might be in
Gotcha.
52, but it's in one of the two books.
Well, the 52, I missed getting all those issues. It was they were on sale for $70 at my half price books for all 52 issues, and I just didn't get it. And then I went back to get it, and it was gone. I was like, that was a mistake.
I have an audio dramatization of 52. That's fantastic.
Oh, neat. Oh, cool.
Like great actors in it. They do, but they leave out all of the sub stories.
Oh yeah, I don't like that. I like it all.
Yeah, and but Ralph died fighting Felix Faust, imprisoning Felix Faust in the Tower of Fate.
Okay.
But somehow it had something to do with his wedding ring to Jean, not to Jean, but to Sue. And so he, like, I'd have to go back and reread the issues, but he literally got shot through the heart with his wedding ring.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And
those
then
wedding ring things are tough. It reminds me of the Carmen issues where that one guy had to get his wedding ring out from the sewer.
Yeah, dude, that was rough.
That was rough too, man. It's like, goodness.
Yeah. But that was honestly the thing of just how, so it furthers the story of like when you see them again in Blackest Night and when they're doing the ghost detectives and stuff like that, is that he died to be able to make sure that Faust was imprisoned, but also so that he could be with Sue.
Right.
And so it's this whole painful thing.
Sweet. It's
But like their zombie dialogue in Blackest Night though, it's weird.
I was like, oh gosh.
If you're a fan of Identity Crisis and then you watch Zombie Sue and Ralph interact in Blackest Night, it's like, oh, I'm nauseous. I don't like this.
This is cringy.
It's super cringy.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that it was such a dope first issue to be able to start off a whole storyline with. And so much happened in the way that came after this that yeah, man, it's bananas. But that's as gangster as killing a superhero's wife who is pregnant, and going as gangster as that was for the time. Like I feel that the stuff that followed in issue 2 and 3.
Oh, that's issue 2 and 3. Yeah, that's what that changed the way we looked at superheroes. Honestly,
it did. And like I honestly don't know. This is, I don't say that this book shouldn't have been done. I don't know that this book would get made today. I feel like it would
it could not, it could get made, but not at DC. This would be like an well, not even IDW, maybe Boom. No, Boom wouldn't do it either. But one of those, maybe Image could get away with producing this, but it wouldn't have the superheroes we know. I don't think they would do it. There's no way. Because their intellectual property, I mean, this damages just about even Superman and Batman in here are complicit, because, and Ollie touches on that in further. So what happens is, for people who haven't read this book, is that you come to find out that not only the problem is that villains get to know their secret identities, which is the whole entire thing, Identity Crisis. So what Dr. Light does, I don't know how much you want to touch on that, Hector.
I don't know if we want to save that for the next
one. Okay, yeah, we could talk about it later. Anyway, so it's brutal, whatever it is. But it's interesting in that they erase villains' characteristics to not make them as whatever bad they are. And gosh, I don't know. I mean, if we talk about that with the Batman thing, then that's a whole nother, that could take for hours. But the interesting thing is Ollie says that Superman hears what he wants to hear and Batman knows what he wants to know. They're like, oh man. And when he says that, like they close up on Superman's
ear,
and they even like at one of the end books or whatever, when Superman's flying away from his Ma, from Ma Kent, and she says something to him and he can still hear it up there in the JLA watchtower. So that, and anyway, I'm going to quit talking because I'll just give everything away. Like I told Hector before this started, you got to rein me in, because when I start talking about comics that I love, I'll just go off on a rampage. But yeah, so everyone is complicit.
And if you've got the world's greatest detective and someone who literally has like super hearing and it's around these people and can tell when they're lying and their heartbeats and everything else, I mean, imagine that the fact that Superman is in the place where, he could probably even tell me this, Superman being at this funeral, hearing all these things, that even if he flew away to go handle business, he wasn't listening to make sure Ralph was okay.
Okay, and that's creepy too, by the way. I mean, I don't know, but we like to think of Superman as the Boy Scout. We always, which is hilarious because in this he goes, they used a bolo line knot with a Dutch twist. And they go, how do you know that? He goes, it's typical Boy Scout. He goes, of course you would know what kind of knot of course. But yeah. So he hears what he wants to hear, and he knows what, and then Batman knows what he wants to know. I don't know. Green Arrow is the man in this. I think he is the I don't know. I wouldn't call it necessarily voice of reason, but
he's definitely the voice of with less bias, I'd say.
Yes, this is the way it is. Yeah. I do like the fact that in issue 2, Ralph had no clue what they had done.
Yeah.
Ralph was not there when they did what they, gosh, I don't know, do you do what, because Dr. Light's a creepo.
He is a creepo. And I think we should just jump on that the next time we get together.
Okay,
just
good.
Because the whole Dr. Light aspect of that was like, I think that's one of the cringiest things in comics ever.
Yes, it is. Just the look on his face.
The look on his face.
Quit talking.
No, that's what we're doing. I don't want to keep you forever because I know you've got adulty things to do too. So I want to ask you this though. You're familiar with the retrospecting? Let's looking at this story from 18 years ago in a now concept. Are you familiar with the term fridging?
No. What is that? I would be really cold.
It was actually Barbara Gordon quoted it in one of the recent issues of Nightwing, but and the term was coined as a term by Gail Simone. Yeah, it might be the issue right before that one where the term was actually, or a couple before it was actually put in print officially as a term. But fridging is a term that's been used for years now to describe killing or destruction of a female character specifically for the advancement of a male character.
Gotcha. Which is why you said, which is part of the reason why I don't think they would make this now.
Yeah. So fridging specifically derives all the way back from when Kyle Rayner found his love interest broken and mutilated and stuffed into a refrigerator.
Gotcha. Oh, nice. That's terrible.
Yeah. It's one of the most horrific WTF moments in comic book history. Is he walks in and they gave him a girlfriend just to kill her so that it could be used as a motivational arc.
Gotcha.
And so Gail Simone made a big public plea, and I'm not saying she's wrong at all, but like that we have to do better as writers, that we don't just use female characters as cannon fodder to further a storyline.
So here's my take on that.
Go ahead.
And I mean, a long time ago, when I was collecting comic books, you would never see, I honestly never saw a female in the comic book shop. One of two reasons. One reason was at that point, they weren't writing for women. Honestly, they were writing just for guys, you know? So this would be, I can understand why they would write that in there, you know? And that was wrong, because you need to write for a broader audience, which I think is one of the problems with the comic book industry to begin with, is that they only wrote for a specific group of people, and it's now thinned out so daggone much that they're losing readers. So I think that is why that was so big back then. Honestly, it wasn't that they were, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I got you.
You write to your audience is what they were doing. And they didn't know that there was another audience. But now that there is, now, of course, Gail Simone, huge, great writer. I agree with her. But back then, I get why they did it.
And so it was one of those things, like I'd known that was a thing, but I was like, when I first started reading this just to have this conversation with you, I was like, did they fridge Sue? Is like this literally a whole thing? Because like I didn't know who Sue was before this. And in a lot of ways, it's just like, oh yeah, they kind of did. Now, to be fair, Brad Meltzer kills a lot of people just for motivation, like in books.
In this book too.
Yeah.
I mean,
this book,
she's not the only one that goes.
No, and that's one of the things I would say is there's a balance to it. It's not just Sue.
Yeah.
Because they turn around, you get the similar things with Tim, and you know, as we go forward with that.
Mm-hmm. That's so sad.
That one. Ooh, can't wait.
And not just that. This is a book about relationship, honestly. Honestly. I mean, it's the heroes and their family, even the villains and their family. You know, I felt sorry. Well, we keep on going on. That's later on in the issues, but I really would love to see Boomerang and his son have a baseball moment, which is what we got to see, you know, tossing the old baseball in the background, in the backyard, although it was a exploding boomerang. But, you know, but that's like, you know, like a dad and his son tossing ball, you know, but anyway.
It was a sweet moment. But like in one of the recent issues, Barbara Gordon of Nightwing, Barbara Gordon gets kidnapped to draw Nightwing out, and she's
yeah.
And she's on communication. She's like, they're literally fridging me, dick.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. It's like they literally, and that was the first time it was used in context.
Oh wow.
And so that was a big moment, and like they kind of like celebrated Gail Simone on Twitter with that, but just like, not that she wrote it, they're like, look, we've actually come to the point where we're using your term in comic books about what's happening.
Which is funny. And like, oh yeah, you're gonna do that to Barbara Gordon, you know?
Yes,
you
who literally, and that's one of the things is that was,
she was serious.
She was one of the primary examples of fridging, is that they took a character.
Oh yeah.
And like destroyed her character just to advance that one storyline.
Yes. Yeah. And they showed that picture's in this book too.
Yeah, it is.
The Killing Joke.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not saying we're going to do one podcast per
part 1 of 7.
I'm not saying it's that, but I'm also not, I'm not against it either. But I would like, there's a lot in each issue to be able to break down. But
I know.
Todd, thank you so much for like hanging out with me and talking about this.
Thank you, Hector. I love it. It's great.
I'm looking forward to this, and like just hearing your thoughts and stuff with it, and we'll break down, because all the nitty gritty stuff is in the issues, the like 2 and 3 and stuff.
This was pure. Yes. Yeah.
3 is, and just for your discussion, 3 is one of my all-time favorite comic books, period.
Oh, Deathstroke is the best in that. That is the best Deathstroke.
That one issue made me like Deathstroke.
Oh, yeah.
that was the one turning point where I'm just like, I reread that single issue more times than anything, like for years.
And the amount of time it takes Ollie just to yell, "Don't!" Like everything falls apart completely. I mean, and he's like, "No!" And I love that.
I was at that point in time, I was running a Bible camp with a bunch of moguls, and there were no other nerds or geeks anywhere near me. And I'm like sitting in a staff meeting with a bunch of older Christians trying to explain. And he was so cool, and he took out the whole Justice League like
in like 0 seconds,
and everybody
like in no time. Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. So anyway, like it's gonna be fun.
Great cover too.
Oh, it's a great cover. It really is. Yours is so pristine.
Yeah.
That's the one of mine that's like dog-eared and
gotcha.
beaten. But and Rags was just at Fayetteville Comic-Con with me the other day. And
oh man.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right, everybody. So if you enjoyed this conversation, you can tune in for more as when our schedules allow. We're gonna keep diving into some more Identity Crisis, and make sure you check out Todd's stuff over at Mosaic Fan Art. And if you and like Todd's conversation here, you can also read Todd's chapter on The Hobbit, which is in book 8, and you can find that also by going to faithandfandom.org and clicking the book 8 section, and it's in there.
Woo!
So, and Todd, thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Hector. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you, dude. Bye, everybody.